to message one of my friends who does. I'm gonna message my friends who do.
All right.
Well, I'm gonna message just probably one of my friends.
You do that. Welcome one and all to the Serious Play. We're doing some Final Fantasy. Let's get you a good shot of my Lalafell. And let me get a stream up for Ren. Yeah. Okay. So today we're doing some near raids. I'm gonna get queued right away in case it takes a long time. So do you want the first one, the second one, or the third one? That is up to you, Ren.
I mean, I really don't care which one we do first, second. I mean, how long are they?
They're alliance raids, so they can take a long time if people don't know what they're
Yeah.
doing. So we're probably
Right,
gonna get
they're-
one in, maybe.
I don't think I've done a single alliance raid. Like, I dropped Final Fantasy XIV for the time being. I've just been doing other stuff, and I don't think I got to the first alliance raid while I was playing.
I'm trying to think.
Because I do all the side quests.
You do all the side quests. We're not gonna do Tower of Pet. We're just gonna join all of them and see which one we get. How's that? And let me see if I can queue for a Tanku.
Hey, Gigahertz, welcome to. We returned to Final Fantasy XIV finally.
We returned. Hello. That's an even worse.
I think it was you who was telling me that these raids are just absolute batshit, right?
I love them.
Huh.
We're gonna see. We're gonna see how this goes. Do I want to heal? I don't want to heal. We're gonna try Dancer. We're gonna do a little Dancer.
I assume you can get like near automata related gear from these things, like the 2B costume and her swords. Like,
you can't get her swords, but like there's do I have a decent?
So the first one's copied factory. That makes sense. That makes sense given what I know about automata. I played through I think all of automata. It's really good.
Yeah, so you have Copy Factory, the Puppet's Bunker, and then the Tower at Paradigm's Breach. And from what I understand of the Nier universe, Tower at Paradigm Breach is like just one big Drakengard reference. Because when I was playing with people who really like the Nier world, they're like, oh, Drakengard! Ah, Drakengard! Oh, there's a Drakengard reference. The whole time was just Drakengard.
Yeah, but it's also...
reference. But it's in the same
It's
world,
also like the penultimate world level of automata. You know? Like, it's this weird, I think if I'm remembering correctly, and I think I know what it is. Yeah, I mean, the thing about Nier, though, is it's like, and maybe some Nier fans will get on my ass for about this. It plays really fast and loose with its canon.
Yeah.
Like, everything rhymes, but it doesn't necessarily rhyme in a way that makes, like, total sense.
Yeah, so, like...
It's very different than, like, a Kingdom Hearts kind of canonicity.
I can show you some of the glams, because I have many of the glams. We got like a nice tank chest. It looks like 9S, I think.
Yep, that's 9S's gear. That's cool.
And then you got like...
Oh, I like that.
A Dragoon gear. That's from the second one. No, that's from the third one.
Nice.
You got a lot of masks. This one's died.
Those are cool.
Yeah, they're cool looking. They're really
good
nice
job.
looking.
Are these of course are the Lalafell outfits. I assume the ones that are not Lalafell outfits are a little more
They're all the same, just not in potato form. They're just more shapely. But yeah, that's a weird one. But you know, I got pants.
You've done most of the Gigahertz has done most of the tank set and likes it, but does not have the rest of the gear.
The tank set's nice. Copy Factory, I like the tank set. One of my issues with Copy Factory is that they have gender changing glams. So like the girls all get to wear 2B-esque dresses, whereas the guys get all these different cool jackets. And so whenever I'm playing a girl, I'm like, I don't want to wear all these dresses that look exactly the same. I want to wear all the cool jackets that the guys get, which is something
that
else.
Sucks.
Yeah, but
that sucks.
That sucks. Gender locked glams are painful, and I just realized that my chat is getting eaten by Final Fantasy. Let me change that.
By the way, probably for the best, but just so you guys know what I'm watching, I think this might be funny. The stream is running at a pristine, like, 60 or 30, whatever you have your frame rate set to. And the Discord's running at like 12.
Yeah.
So I have both windows open right now. One so I can see the comments stuff from David now
Yes.
and Gigahertz. But yeah, I mean, like I need both of these windows up because I can't appreciate the animations.
Oh yeah.
And if I
All right.
understand anything about these near raids, they're going to be animation heavy.
Yeah, and I'm also playing a dancer, so you'll get a lot of the fancy dancer glam. But this is my baby bun, David. Yes, he's my little mushroom man.
Are my eyes going to be able to tell what's going on, or is this one of those raids?
We'll see. See what happens.
Morgan, we'll see.
We'll see. I'll be able to know what's going on. I don't know if you'll be able to understand what's going on.
Oh my
But
god.
collaborations. So, Copy Factory, beautiful.
Awesome.
I like Copy Factory. Copy Factory has my favorite boss in the game, title-wise, and you'll figure out why. Being a graduate student. But so collaborations. So I actually turn on all my cutscenes. So
This is exciting.
You'll just watch.
Gigahertz will be able to criticize everybody's gameplay in semi-real time because he's done the raid.
This is true. Don't judge my rotation.
You can tell me when the tanks aren't in tank stance.
Well, I have not watched the cutscenes for this in a hot second.
Okay, so this is very, yes, cool. Cool.
You're like, yes, gotcha.
Yeah, this is a little bit more like the what's interesting is the background set. The chasm here is very Final Fantasy. Oh god, they look super out of place. My god.
Right? This is the where it comes in. So you have this like beautiful these collaborations, these raids are done very well. Like they're like, oh, super atmospheric and they're really nice and they're like, oh, get you in the near. And then you just have all the Final Fantasy characters, including Chicken Mask Man.
Yeah, all the jobbers just hanging out.
Just the goobers hanging out. Oh, I have another dance. Oh, why?
Who is fucking Fedora Man over there with his giant ass white hat? Oh my god.
A beautiful man. Hats are.
A beautiful man indeed.
Oh, that guy?
Uh-huh.
That's a nice wizard hat. Yes. So, collaboration. So Final Fantasy has had multiple collaborations. I don't really play Dancer. I like Dancer. It's also one of the only rotations I know pretty decently. Oh, they just pulled. Good. Glad. Oh, yeah.
I'm a few seconds behind because the frame rate is making it really hard to watch on the Discord.
Okay, that's
so
fine.
You might just want to stop the stream if it helps your game.
Oh, I'm not having any issues, so I'll be fine.
Okay, cool. Then yeah.
Wait, inventory. So, collaborations in Final Fantasy. This is it. Previously, before Stormblood, they had a collaboration mostly with themselves. So they would have a Final Fantasy, for Stormblood's Alliance raids, they were collaboration, somewhat a reimagination of 12, I think, or 10. I think it might have been 10. Not entirely sure. I don't play Final Fantasy games, but and then they also had the Rathalos raid, so you could do a Monster Hunter raid in it, and they actually had changes in the mechanics, in that you couldn't heal in the second phase, which is really annoying. You could only use potions. Oh, our dancer DC'd. That's great. Not me, the other dancer. but so it seems like the Alliance raids are like prime targets for collaborations.
Yeah.
Because they're kind of optional content. Well, one of them is not, but they're somewhat optional content. But it still adds that flavor of having another game within your game, I guess.
Right.
I don't know. What do you think? What are your? Oh, that's out. What are your thoughts on like collaborations within games, whether it's playable content or just like a glam?
Well, it's interesting, right? I mean, there's a really interesting paper. I can't remember who wrote it now. It was back when I was doing some research for my second C's presentation that, we were talking. There was this concept coming up in like kind of postmodern narrative theory about horizontal metalepsis. And like, All right, I obviously adhere to like an idea of horizontal middle ellipsis, but that's mainly intra to a story world. I don't know how, like, I'm kind of wary of like theorists' desire to connect and fandom's desire to connect story worlds based on like weird ass collaborations that happen, you know?
Yeah.
Obviously there's some collaboration, like there's so many kinds of collaborations that just saying like what is your opinion about collaborations is difficult. Like like for instance, oh, this comes to mind, right? What's it called? um like there's a difference between Kingdom Hearts collaborate like, and which apparently like the fucking Monsters Inc. world in Kingdom Hearts 3 is canon to the Monsters Inc. franchise.
Well, I mean,
So
okay,
you tell me
okay.
how that works. I don't. And then there's like finding, you know, a Payday 2 mask in the Stanley Parable, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like there's different implications, and then there's a question of whether the like if this thing is in the game and it's applied to be like embedded media, that's different. Like but that's not what's going on here. Like what's going on here is like a themed raid. I don't believe that this is story relevant to the Nier franchise, right?
It actually kind of is. Yoko Taro being Yoko Taro. He's like, yeah, this exists in the Nier canon because all Nier collaborations are canon to Nier.
Yeah.
Somehow, because Yoko Taro.
All right. Oh, there. All right. Well, you know, definitely author.
Yoko Taro
There's
is...
saying that, and then there's meaning that, right? Like,
Yeah.
I'm sure he genuinely thinks that it's the case, right? I'm not gonna say, well, you don't know what the fuck you're talking about. But if you do a collaboration and it makes no fucking sense in your story world, then like what do you do? Like this is the thing with Nier, right? Like or this collaboration, right? What how are all these warriors of light just appearing in the Nier universe?
Yeah.
Explain.
It's like for like the story of the Nier raids. Also, this is really pretty.
I love, yeah, this is a great, I mean, I'm sure it's a great raid, and I love the like, I'm not saying that like it shouldn't take itself seriously as a piece of Nier lore as a raid, right? There's some benefit to like it being a serious endeavor, but like and obviously like you want players to take the raid somewhat seriously, and so it being like, yes, like this is their stakes, this is real, right? But there's a difference between that and being like, oh, this makes sense in my story.
It's kind of really weird how it's integrated in the... So, like, the Shadowbringers being a loving tribute to tactics. Yeah, tactics. They kind of incorporated... They just kind of picked up the world of tactics and copy-pasted it into Eorzea, which is the realm of Final Fantasy. So... And then it's continued with, like, the level 80 relics quests. Like, they blatantly say, they just exist in this world. Okay? Okay, they exist. And this one kind of takes a similar route. The story behind this is, like, it's the Nier story, but in Final Fantasy. Like, the robots are here from a different dimension, and they're gonna do the same thing that they did to their dimension. It's very weird. It kind of makes sense. That it's like, oh, it's extra dimensional thing happening. But also, yeah, it's kind of separate because it doesn't actually matter to the main story. Like, this big yawning chasm appears, and then later on in the story, shit gets blown up, and nobody cares except for the dwarves who are impacted. So it's kind of separate. Although I do agree, Gigahertz. I'm excited for a more original content. It's been 2 expansions that have been not Final Fantasy 14. So like these Kanog and Anog are like trying to help 2P do stuff, and then it's not 2P, it's 2B, and then like things happen, and yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. So that's very Nier. That's very Nier adjacent, right? Like,
yeah.
2B is not 2B. 2B is something else. I'm not going to explain that part because it's a spoiler. But you know, and obviously the near I'm interested to see like if you did, obviously we're not here to do a critical reading of this today. I feel like I'd have to be way more like aware. This is cool. I like the sliding section.
Oh yeah.
Adding some momentum to the game is awesome because Final Fantasy XIV sorely lacks a sense of momentum unless you're like on a mount.
On a mount.
So that's really cool. That's a really cool
This is a cool
thing.
boss. This is also a cool boss.
Yeah, this is a really cool like setup. I like this. This is a good arena design, at least visually. I don't know how it's going to work out from a gameplay standpoint, but yeah. So oh hey, it's Gladys, but a Nier character.
Kind of, yeah. I can get down with that. I hope the.
But yeah, so you know, how should I say? I like obviously collaborations and like their positionality relevant to a series is difficult. And on top of that, I've never been a big fan of authors just saying, well, this is canon, this is not canon, right? I really feel that it's up to the kind of imagined community to decide, and I feel often imagined communities decide that whatever the author says is canon. You know, big whoop. So that's I know, shocking, but like if it doesn't make sense in the story, right? Like if it doesn't make sense to be part of the canon, or it is not relevant to the canon, then like there's no harm in it existing on its own. And I don't know, I feel like sometimes fandoms get lost in trying to make everything make sense.
I'm being called out for my clicking. Yes, gigahertz. I click because I'm lame. I have been called out for my clicking before, but I do indeed click. I don't raid Savage, so it's not that big of a deal. That's what I tell everyone, and they still give me a hard time. But anyway, yeah, and I think... Ow. I just took that to the face. It's fine. Sorry if I totally get you off track.
No, it's fine. I was gonna also say I love this this boss arena is awesome.
Yes.
And one of the things I feel about the later Final Fantasy raids I've seen is really the earliest raids from the game, from this version of the game, I should say, are like these big long hallways. They're very standard dungeons, but it seems like as the game has progressed, they found ways of making the like level geometry fun to play with, so they can stack boss mechanics on top of the dungeon, so you're fighting the environment as much as you're fighting the boss. Yeah, and that's awesome. That's really good design. And
they've definitely gotten better over the years. And streamline that process. Like, I remember in the first... Where are these flamethrowers? Oh, I'm on the right side. So that's going to shoot some flamethrowers. Yeah, they definitely have gotten better over time. There's a level 50 Alliance raid that you literally teleport around. And I don't know if that was implemented before. But I feel like they were like, here's a shortcut because you're going to have to walk back through the dungeon if you don't take the shortcut. It was really silly.
Oh, yeah.
Bad design.
That's very dumb. Yeah.
They got more creative in general. Yeah, I think they've definitely figured out what is safe to do and what is safe to change and mess around with. There are certain mechanics that they've pretty much abandoned. Like a lot of the... I'm doing a raid in... I do Heavensward raids, so like 2 expansions ago. And there are some things that they have left in those raids for good reason. They're like, this is an interesting mechanic. And then they never touch it again because they realize how terrible a mechanic it is.
The thing the game, you know, some game designer was like, yes, we have to try this. And then they tried it and they were like, oh, that was a mistake.
Yeah. Because they saw like how it impacts, like how players messed with it or how they did that. And they also, you know, you have the endemic, well, we have to design around hallowed ground because we made hollow ground and we can't change it. Hollow ground is literally just, I'm invulnerable for 8 seconds.
Oh god, that's pretty rough.
Apparently at some point they thought that was a good idea. Hobbs, I can't see you. There we go.
Well, you learn, you know, fucking, a lot of, I think a lot of RPG related paraphernalia right now is kind of in some ways afraid to move away from the stuff that, you know, the things that are very like how should I say,
tropes?
Traditional, yeah, tropes in RPGs that are not very convenient to the player. And like that's fine. Like I'm not saying the player should always be having like the most convenient time doing everything in a game. I think that's really silly. There has to be adversity, right? But I do think like not having save points in dungeons, right? Like that's pretty fucking awful in some places. Or not having having achievements or things that require you to find every blank of something in the game and not having a checklist in the game for you to check against, right? Like there's no real reason to do that other than, well, we didn't have it in older RPGs, so we're not going to have it in this RPG, right? So
Yeah.
like that's invulnerability is always like kind of giving bosses places where you can't hit them, like that's fine. But straight up invulnerability, I mean, again, like it's not a very Gigahertz says it has an 8-minute cooldown, so like that obviously cut it some slack. But some RPGs will just give you like, oh, here is how the fuck are you? Oh, that's how you dodge that. I was like, what the fuck? How do you get out of that fucking AOE? No, it you know, like having some of it invulnerability, fine, but like if the boss is sitting there and has a whole invulnerability phase, like where you're waiting, you know,
Oh, yeah.
3 minutes of dodging before you can actually hit the boss to do any damage,
Well,
that's
Hologround
really
is...
annoying. That's really annoying in some games.
Yeah, there's some things with or Heaven's Word Gigahertz has a lot of dark damage, which goes through cooldowns just in general. And you're like, what's dark damage? It was a thing in Heaven's Word, and it's annoying. um, but yeah, Hologround is a player ability. I should have probably specified that. But yeah.
MMOs are really interesting as a genre because obviously like they've grown up from MUDs, but even beyond that, they like MMOs have taken so much from JRPGs.
Yeah.
You know, really, I feel like so often MMOs, very, very often MMOs are just trying to be massively multiplayer JRPGs, which means some of these traditional mechanics that are endemic to JRPGs and the culture around JRPGs get slapped into MMOs, whether or not they actually make any sense to be there.
Yeah.
You know, I say that, but also I just want to stipulate that the job system in Final Fantasy XIV is amazing. And it's incredible.
Well, it's like that's one of the things when you know they're talking to Yoshi P and like, what's the design principle of oh, that
What is it doing?
I died.
Is it wiping?
No, it just there was 3 stacked on top of me, and if there was 2, I would have lived. But there's not 2.
Ah.
That's fine. But yes, as a tank player, definitely feels. But why?
So is this thing just flying around? Is this the one of the what's it called? I know what they're called, but I can't remember in the moment.
They're like the units or whatever.
They're the personal like flying units for different characters and Nier. I know that much. So is this guy just flying around harassing you, or is that a boss that you also had to fight?
That is 2P, or like 2P's
okay.
Friend, the dude.
I see.
Oh, I went back to
2B's
oh no.
It's 9S.
I'm not giving you the good streaming content. Let me go around here. I'm not giving you the accurate.
But yeah, I mean, it's this like, you know, I don't know. Sometimes I like, God. I feel like people get really pedantic with genre, but like, yes. I do think in this particular case, like, yeah, especially with a game that is called Final Fantasy XIV, it's worth talking about.
Also, look at this.
You know,
look at this. Beautiful.
Wow, that was really cool. I can't wait for it to load in its full resolution. There we go. Nice. We
got this giant guy.
I think it's really important to talk about like how is it riffing on JRPG stuff. Yes. And Nier, of course, it's really interesting because Nier and Final Fantasy, like old Final Fantasy and Nier, have very opposite design paradigms.
Okay.
You know?
Yeah.
Yeah, in terms of like the pace of combat, how are you supposed to engage with combat? You know, what is success and failure in these games also is kind of very different. So I actually am kind of curious from a story perspective, like, do you get a clean victory in this raid, or is it just does it just kind of end?
It's not a great ending. Guys, take that away. No, Long, take that away. You're gonna die.
Okay. Also, this whole level that they're copying from is just the tutorial of the fucking Nier game. Like, if anybody wanted to play this level in Nier, you could just boot up the demo.
Ow. Also, this is why he's my favorite, is because it hits angles, and he does mark smash, and it makes me happy.
Nice.
I have no idea why he's like that, and I've asked people, like, why is his aim angles? And no, everyone's like, what do you mean? I'm like, he's doing mark smash. Is this like a communist reference? And no one's answered me. I'm just like,
It's gotta be. Cause like he's like a fucking factory crane slash like thing, and on top of that, like the whole thing with God, I think they think it is supposed to be a communism joke. I bet the fucking localizers did that
it could be. I just
since
enjoy
they love their damn memes.
I just enjoy the fact, like, the guy's named Angles because he's in Nier's Angles, but like his moveset is really hilarious. What am I, A? I gotta go over here.
God. Fucking
Let's see if the
I don't
tanks-
remember this part of the Communist Manifesto.
Oh, my tank doesn't know that he's supposed to be taking this. I guess I'll just take it. At your leisure.
Can you
tank.
survive it?
I'm surviving it right now, I guess.
Okay.
It's fine. You're not supposed to have them together, or else they will not die. But where's my tank? Oh,
okay,
he's
I
over
see,
there.
I see.
He's over there. Because in Alliance raids, they always have this ABC layout.
Gotcha.
And I'm just sitting there like, where's our tank? I wiped.
This is why I don't play tank in Final Fantasy, at least not yet. It's because it's so much responsibility.
I will
Your
say,
tank fucks up.
I have totally wiped one of the when this was current. When this was current, I totally wiped the whole alliance because I missed that part. I was Alliance C, and I didn't grab Alliance C's thing, and then I think Alliance B got killed, and I got rezzed, and then I walked off the edge. So that was a problem. And everyone was like, what just happened? I'm like, I'm so sorry. I just messed up this whole fight. Oh. But it's interesting because for me it's mechanics, like how the mechanics of Nier kind of get factored into Final Fantasy.
Sure,
like
yeah.
In like Tower of Paradigm's Breach, there's like a whole mini game part of a boss where you go and hack things as like an
Yeah, you do
little
9S's
things.
hacking game.
Yeah, you do 9S's hacking game. It comes out of nowhere, but if you play Nier, you're like, oh my gosh, hey,
This
it's
is
the
really
hacking
cool.
game.
Yeah.
We got to do this. I love playing because I have several people in my free company who love Nier. And when Nier got released, they wanted to do it blind. And so I went into content with them blind, and they just go like, oh my god, this is so cool, this is fantastic, oh, this is so cool. And I'm like, yeah, I'm excited that you're excited. I have no idea about Nier. I'm just happy
Oh
to
my
be here.
god, that's an AoE. But at least I like that tracks. I get it.
But it's
so
it's the mechanical, especially with like the Rathalos one and stuff,
sure.
like incorporating the mechanics of the game I think is really interesting from like a player perspective, because you don't have any context. Like, I don't know why I can't heal in the Rathalos thing. I presume it's
Have you never played Monster Hunter World?
I've never played Monster Hunter. Oh, is that you?
All right, let's get.
Oops.
You know what?
Oopsies.
That's what we'll do. That's what we'll do next week on Lunch Zone. I'll take the next week's Lunch Zone. I will bike home from the university, and I will bike back, and we will do a Rathalos in fucking Monster Hunter World, so you can see why a Rathalos fight. And we'll do the reverse of this. I'll play the game that they adapted.
Hey, that'll be great, because for me, like doing the collaborations, there's also currently an event doing a collaboration with Final Fantasy 15. And I was I was going through the story of it. I should have not done that because it actually had some really neat mechanics. Like you could do linked strikes in one of the instances, and I was like, hey, that's neat. And you're doing it with Noctis and stuff.
Cool.
But like during the story, you're like hanging out at a campfire with like this really like cheery music, and I'm like, this isn't Final Fantasy 14. Why am I sitting at a bonfire with this random dude? And my friend was like, oh, that's what they do in Final Fantasy 15. They just hang out by bonfires. And I'm like, oh, okay, so this is a really good homage to Final Fantasy 15 that I just miss because I've never played Final Fantasy 15.
Well, I've been meaning to get into that game again too. It's just a game I pick up and put down like crazy. But like, so when you're speaking about mechanics here, one of the things that's like interesting to me is that, obviously this is real time and you're making like these decisions on the fly like any MMO.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing is that your movement is important in that you are not getting hit by attacks or standing in those is sticking in those AoEs, right? It's still AoEs. It's always the thing with this game. Everything's a fucking AoE. That being said, Nier is obviously more in the kind of Arkham Asylum lineage of gameplay, right? Like
Yeah.
it's this constant dodging and like it's not active dodging as in like say something like The Witcher, right? Where you're either in a dodge animation or an attack animation. It's more fluid than that.
Mm-hmm.
So well, I don't know what's going on with that big fuck off like ring at the front of the platform, but I'm guessing like what is well, I guess I should just ask before I start trying to read it. What the fuck is up with that big fuck off ring? The
What do you
red
mean?
ring.
Oh, what do you mean red ring?
The red semicircle at the front of fighting that guy.
Oh, that's his hitbox.
What?
That's.
That whole fucking Jesus Christ. So as long as you're hitting that, it's his hitbox. You don't have to be standing in it or anything.
No. Yeah, and I'm ranged, so I don't even have to be like next to him. They also might pull this before I
Ah,
even am done with the cutscene, but they might be
I
nice.
see. Okay, okay. Yeah, so I mean, it's different. I think that's just something that's really hard to mediate. Like they're clearly making choices about what mechanics they're going to like bring across and what they're not. Clearly, here they are just very focused on trying to get the actual like the feeling of the setting and the sound and the types of attacks in. They're not exactly trying to, bring across the kind of real time action. Although what's interesting to me is that somebody like Gigahertz was saying these raids are I don't have a lot of context for other Alliance raids. Gigahertz says this raid is a faster paced raid than other raids.
They
Is that
waited
true?
for me. I would say yeah.
Yeah. So there is some of that increase in speed to the combat that is coming. It's just coming in. Like how is that speed coming?
Um, I
Like is it
think
is
it's
it more moment to moment of how you get into fights, or is it
oh, I just got
like
excited with
interior
this.
to the fights?
I think that these ones I feel more fast paced. Um, mainly because of how much stuff is going on. In a way. Also the music plays a lot. It's very epic music. Um,
It's that Weight of the World they're playing.
I think it is actually. It's Way to the World remix with Final Fantasy music, which is very good from my perspective.
Nice.
But yeah, so like, with how this boss has scaled with item levels, you just get constant. You do dual flank cannons, and then there's a laser cannon, and then there's 4 hind cannons, and you're constantly doing mechanics. Whereas in like level 70 raids, like you'll do a mechanic and then you'll wait a little bit, and then there's going to be a mechanic here. It's a little bit slower in how they come to be or not to be. If I was not a Lalafell, I'd totally be like, let me put on the 2B butt, but I can't do that because I'm Lalafell.
By the way, in case anybody hasn't played Nier, 9S never jacks himself into it like this. This is like specifically a Nier thing, although it is really cool looking.
Yeah.
You know what it actually reminds me of? It reminds me of that one boss from Dark Souls that's just a lady with a spider body.
Oh, Dritter. No, well, kind of a Dritter. But yeah.
It's from the first Dark Souls.
Now he's gonna run away. But yeah, that's why I think where the pacing comes from in these raids in particular is just how fast the game moves and how it's telegraphed. So, like, you can run to 2P and she'll kind of give you an idea of where to stand. But you also have to dodge yourself. And like with the mark smash and stuff, a lot of things in Final Fantasy are mostly telegraphed with AoE markers, but in these raids, there's a lot that is not telegraphed. You kind of have to just, or there's not a lot that's telegraphed with AoE markers. You have to watch the boss or watch the arena. which I feel like adds another aspect of this is a little bit different than what Final Fantasy typically is.
Yeah.
But yeah, Rathalos is also like that.
Yeah, and that makes sense for like I'd be a little bit iffy on it here, but that makes sense for a Monster Hunter crossover because Monster Hunter is all about learning the behavior of the monster you're fighting, or just DPSing the fuck out of it and just saying,
just
which is more like, yeah, just burn it. Just oh my god. Which actually, maybe we could. Honestly, one of the things that would be really nice to do if we had a Monster Hunter stream would be to get more people who have Monster Hunter so you can see what it's like with a team. Because I bet they're not scaling the Monster Hunter rate off of what solo play is like. I bet they're scaling it off of what multiplayer feels like.
Normal Rathalos is 8, so it's a normal 8-person raid. But the Savage is a 4-person raid.
Right, and
is the only I guess what I'm trying Savage.
And that makes sense because a 4-person squad is how big you would have for a Monster Hunter fight. You would have up to 4 party members.
Yeah,
so they probably want you playing very discrete roles, and they probably want you playing very discrete roles, in concert with each other while watching the boss's moves. And it's probably more important in some ways that you're communicating. I can see the direction they might have gone with some of this stuff. And you said there's a healing thing, so I assume you have to eat food to heal.
Yeah, there's like a potion
or something.
I think there's a potion.
Yeah. That tracks.
It's a duty action.
Why don't we? It'd be cool if we then maybe next week we could get some people together who have Monster Hunter and get at least one other person in there so you can see how co-op works.
Yeah.
And then maybe we can do the Rathalos raid the week after or something. I don't have Nier. I played it when I could. I rented it from the library in undergrad and beat the whole fucking thing. So if I had it, I would be like, hell yeah, let me boot it up and we'll do this and that next week.
Nier is great.
We can do the factory. Right. No, it's a fantastic game. I have zero complaints with it. Actually, I do have one complaint with Nier as a game, which is the Automata, the 9S hacking game gets really tired after a while. Don't get me wrong, it's fun, but the amount of hacking that you can do and the amount of hacking you will want to do by the end of the game are two different things. So there's that.
Just playing some Simon Says here. Don't mind me.
But yeah, so we'll figure it out. But I think that this it's interesting because, like I said, I feel like Nier's real time and this is real time are very different.
Yeah.
And part of with Monster Hunter, right? You have specialists. You have people who are classing with specific weapons to do the best they can. Sure, your resistances are your resistances are your resistances, but the guy with the hunting horn is doing something entirely different than the guy with the fucking gun lance.
Yeah.
That being said, which by the way means we have to have a hunting horn player in the party, just so you can see the hunting horn. That's so good. I love the fucking hunting horn.
For
I can't use it, but other people can.
For the raid in Final Fantasy, when you do extreme, it's the standard 1 tank, 1 healer, 2 DPS. So that's the compositions, like a dungeon composition. It's very. I have not actually done Rathalos Extreme synced, but I heard that it was not fun when it was current. From people who were like, I didn't like how it changed. It felt, one of the things with the Rathalos, it felt very slow. We're talking about speed. The Rathalos one feels very awkward and clunky. So it's kind of interesting because this feels very fast and quick and different, whereas the Monster Hunter one feels just a little bit clunkier because
that tracks.
Yeah.
Monster Hunter in when you move around in Monster Hunter, and you're trying to position yourself with a monster, unless you are really good, the game is going to feel a little like ass because you're a dude fighting a giant fuck off monster. Not so in Nier. Nier, you are a specialized robot designed for combat.
Who should I give? Oh, I gotta give it to Omri Stormblast because that was my dance partner.
Yeah, I do really think this is really cool, and I'll give it its due praise. I do think it's a unique challenge trying to imagine, how one would, adapt a real-time action game with a countering mechanic to something like, an MMO.
Definitely, and I think it's something that you can thinking about how do you adapt characters and stuff. One of the biggest one of the biggest things that has collaborations is like Smash Bros. How do you
Mm-hmm.
how do you take Minecraft Steve and turn him into a fighter? Or how do you take like the villager from Animal Crossing and turn him into a fighter without losing the mechanical identity of those characters?
Oh yeah.
Here, let me see if I can queue into Rathlos. It's probably not going to work, but
And
we're
you know
gonna
what's
try.
really like caused problems as far as that goes?
Mm-hmm.
To be honest, the Fire Emblem characters, they all feel the fucking same.
Yeah. But at the same point, like, that makes sense in a way.
No, it makes perfect sense.
We're gonna see
But
if we can get Rathlos.
I think that's a real problem that people have with the Fire Emblem characters and the Sword Boys. It's not like they say, oh, it's because there's too many Fire Emblem characters in the game.
Which,
There's some truth to that. There's a lot of
fair
fucking
point.
Fire Emblem
There's
characters.
a lot of Fire Emblem characters.
But I think it has more to do with the fact that the Fire Emblem characters don't feel notably different from each other. So it feels like they've just put the same character in the game over and over again.
Yeah, and there's some like different.
Yeah.
Oh, that popped.
I mean, I
much
think
faster
Robin
than
feels very different than Marth, but I mean,
Yes.
does fucking does Rob feel different from Ike? Not
No,
really.
well, cause one of the things with, also I've queued into it. It went really fast, so we're doing the Rathalos fight right now. We're doing.
Oh, cool, fun. Let's do this. We'll bring on some fun guests to do. We'll ask the collab if anybody has Monster Hunter World. I mean, if they don't, I'll ask Cricket and Musi if they want to come help us out or something.
Honestly, I totally forgot that this existed until I was thinking about it. I'm like, oh, we could do Rathalos. He's a collab. Here he comes.
Oh man, that's a Rathalos. Sure is. He's a bitch. You know what? He's like definitely not one of the hardest monsters in Monster Hunter World, but he is a absolute bitch. Like, all right. So if they've created him correctly, the problem with fighting a Rathalos is that his tail fucking sucks, and that his fire breath also fucking sucks.
Oh yes, that's in this.
Is he also extremely, like, needlessly mobile?
Yes, as you can see, I just got yeeted away because he doesn't aggro.
Yes, that's about right.
So right now he's aggroed on the poor Black Mage because aggro doesn't work in this fight.
Yep, that tracks.
Also,
Oh god, that tracks. I'm having flashbacks. I'm having war flashbacks from fighting my first Rathalos and just going to be like, no, 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 no. Ah!
Oh, and then, alright, we have monsters who are coming to attack us.
Yeah, maybe what we'll do is we could get next week we could fight a Rathalos, and then we could get some people together to extreme measures this thing.
Oh, come here.
So yeah, I mean, if they've created a reasonable facsimile of this game, then every time he does anything, you should be panicking.
Kind of. I will say, when I get swiped by his tail and I get animation locked, oh, it's so annoying because they animation lock you as you tumble away in true, like, Dark Souls Monster Hunter fashion.
Yeah, that is absolutely true. You can get wombo comboed in Monster Hunter. I can't tell you how many times I've fought a monster, and it has completely unfairly knocked me up with its tail, and then immediately barreled into me. Because the thing about Monster Hunter
I gotta
fights,
get on the foothold, I think.
Oh,
I don't actually entirely remember.
the only thing I don't know if they can like capture this. Oh, nice! You can ride him. Nice. So this is also in the game. I had no idea they were doing this.
I just went, oh, I need to get up there. And then you need to get behind this guy.
Get up on the Hydra's back. There's an old joke. What the fuck?
You have to hide behind the mammoth, and then he does a bunch of...
God.
Can I res people? Oh, good, I can res people.
Nice.
Wasn't entirely sure if I could. But healing doesn't work anymore. So you have to use your duty actions.
So you have to be very careful with your healing. That also tracks.
Yeah, there's 10. You get 10.
Yeah, the thing about Monster Hunter bosses is that if they walk forward, they can damage you.
Oh.
That is about the stupidest thing about Monster Hunter, I think, is that the monster walking forward is a fucking attack. So literally, if the Rathalos moves, then it's time to panic.
Oh my god. the animation locks. There's so many animation locks in this fucking fight. Ah!
Seems like they've adapted it really faithfully, but to the detriment of the game.
I'm just sitting here like I gotta drink my potion. Let me just drink this potion. Give me a sec. Oh, and he's down. Now you get his tail.
I kind of wonder what Gigahertz thinks about, like, if this is fun for you.
He said that he had a lot of fun farming extreme. I think we did it with 3 DPS and 1 tank. That kind of tracks because you can't really do healing. Nowadays you can do this unsynced with like 2 or 3 dancers, and it goes really easily, which is nice.
Okay.
But yeah, this one synced is painful. Not painful. I like it. It's fine. I don't remember how to do it half the time. Okay, let me get you. I can Asuna people, but I can't heal them.
Yeah, he just doesn't have AoEs.
He's just.
I mean, he does, but he doesn't have like AoEs, like Final Fantasy XIV AoEs. You know?
Yeah, and it's all telegraphed. So he's telegraphing it, but it's not giving us any information. So like he's going forward now, and if you were watching him and you did this fight a lot, you're like, oh, he's going forward. I don't have that luxury.
Don't stand in front of him.
Don't stand in front of him,
yeah.
But he moves so much.
I bet the first time people do this raid, they're like, what the fuck, what the fuck, what the fuck, which is also how it works when you do a Monster Hunter first.
That's what I thought when I got it, because I've never played Monster Hunter, and it was like, oh, this has a different seal. Like it shows like it has the Monster Hunter seal, World seal or whatever. I'm like, oh, okay. This is neat. I'll just go into it. And then I was like, wait, why can't I heal? And there's a duty action, and I'm very confused. Yeah.
Also, I see that Gigahertz has said that they did it unsynced with 4 DPSs and did it in 2 minutes.
Oh yeah, you can do it really fast. I'm just gonna Asuna everyone. We're just gonna.
I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. Like I said, you can play Monster Hunter with a lot of strategy, or you can just get a bunch of people who can do a fuckload of damage and ramp a boss down real fast.
So you're saying
your call.
So you're saying unsynced is also accurate to Monster Hunter.
I think like the closest you can probably get to actual Monster Hunter fighting this is if you played Monk and did it.
Oh,
because
yeah.
Because like fucking the thing about Monster Hunters is the way that its combat system works is like half a real-time RPG and the other half of it's like a fighting game. So like the closest you can get is probably Monk with its weird maneuvers.
You can definitely see there's a difference in, at least from what I can feel, a difference in speed. Like with Nier, you're just like, oh, I gotta move over here, I gotta move over here.
Hey, Palico!
Yeah, Palico's here. He's the one that gives you the quest.
How cute.
You can also, in kind of Monster Hunter style, you can take the tails.
Nice, you can skin the tail. That's good.
Yeah, you can carve out the things.
Fucking Christ. Gigahertz just said, I played Monk in Extreme. Absolute nightmare. I loved every second of it.
We always gotta have the one mask.
Oh, that's fantastic.
But yeah, so
these are great. These they're fun.
They're fun, and they're slightly different. Like the Final Fantasy XV one and the Tactics ones, they kind of were like, well, we'll get some homages in there. Like, oh, this one was kind of cool, like a cool boss mechanic. Like for the Final Fantasy XV, Garuda's there, but it's the Final Fantasy XV Garuda, and she's like, why am I here? This is not where I'm supposed to be. Oh, hey, Final Fantasy XV character. That's why I'm here. Mm-hmm. And so it's like a different design. So I was like, oh, that's neat, because it shows the overlap of worlds, you know? But there are also not a lot of mechanical differences between the things. It's a lot of more of just like, hey, this is just more Final Fantasy XIV. But when you're adding completely different games like Monster Hunter and Nier, it's interesting to see how they kind of pick up mechanics and slow down mechanics with just like the way that the fights are made. It's really neat. I appreciate.
Yeah, it is really neat. There's a paper in that.
There's a paper in that.
There's a paper in that. Well, yeah, it's like there's like adaptation studies, I think in my mind is so focused on books to film basically all the time. And
Mm-hmm.
that's fine and all, but like, and even when we talk about adaptations in games, more often than not we talk about adaptations from games to other media types as
Yeah.
opposed to from games to games. Or
Mm-hmm.
like the most complicated adaptations you can do are taking a game and turning it into another game, you know?
Oh yeah, I should show off my Rathalos mount. My
There's
tiny
this
dragon.
absolute, oh my god, that's amazing.
It's basically just.
What the fuck? Oh my god. I see he still jumps like a fucking chicken.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that this is just a straight rip from World. They were just like, here, have the Rathalos model. Because
It
it's one.
sure just is a tiny Rathalos model from World. Yeah.
And they scale per race, so Rogadin Rathaloses are huge compared to like my Lalafels.
Incredible.
um, but yeah, and one of the other things, like adaptation studies, like going from like video game to board game is another one that kind of
Oh,
fascinates
sure,
me
yeah.
because there's a lot of board games. I actually, you see that in a lot of board games that I don't like, that try to emulate video games. Like there's a Dark Souls board game. There's a Doom board game. I don't know why, but there
Yeah,
is.
there's an Oregon Trail board game. It sucks.
Yeah, and there's also
That's
like board
there.
games that are based on movies, like The Thing,
Yeah.
Outpost 49 or something like that. And so
Yeah.
like board
And
games, like taking mechanics from video games and trying to put that into a board game, it's really clunky because a lot of times they're like, oh well, Dark Souls has this leveling system and they also have a crafting system, they also have an upgrade system. So they have these 5 different decks to emulate the different systems of the video games, and it just becomes painful. I'm just like, just make
yeah.
make your own board game. Don't try to emulate a
And
video game.
like the thing is that like when you are building when you're adapting for any medium, you have to like, attend to the affordances of that medium. And more than that, you have to attend to its modalities too, right? Going from a video game to a board game, you are scaling in so many ways back from the visual components that are enriching to a video game. You still have interactivity, but you don't have interactivity that's responsive in the same way. So like creating it's not that you can't create the same feeling in the player, it's that doing it has to be this entirely counterintuitive procedure of reimagining how you get to that feeling from the ground up. What's interesting about the adaptation from a video game to another video game is that now it's the caveat isn't that the affordances are changing, it's that you have to take into mind the design paradigms you already have in your existing game or what the genre affords, right? So, you can't just put near, I mean, I guess you can't, oh my god.
I was
You
waiting
can't
for you
just
to
put
see it.
you can just put the regalia into Final Fantasy 14, don't get me wrong. But you can't just change the entire game. Or if you do, then you've created a very different kind of experience than if you don't, I should say.
Yeah, and I feel like it does change, um, because people are here to play Final Fantasy 14. They're not really here to play Final Fantasy 15 or Monster Hunter
No.
World or any of that kind of stuff. So it still has to be
It's not a demo
it
disc.
has to be 14.
Right.
But it can also have homages and like slight changes to how fights are designed to emulate systems. So,
Yeah.
I'm trying to think. But kind of going back to Smash for a second. When they're like translating, when they have, I think the reason why Fire Emblem characters, they all play very similar, or they play like, here's a Marth character and here is a Ike character. Like those are the two types of Fire Emblem characters. They're either fast or they're slow. And I think that's just because Fire Emblem characters in Fire Emblem are not all the same. But all the main characters typically act the same. They're either a fast swordsman or they're a slow swordsman, or sometimes they're a sword with a lightning bolt.
A man attached?
We have a mana
Oh,
attached.
sorry.
Yeah.
My bad.
So a lot of times when they're like, oh, we want to get Ike in here, we don't get Marth because they're main characters, or like the main character from Awakening, they're all generally the same because they're all because the main characters in Fire Emblem just happen to usually play the same, so or similar.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's a lot of Fire Emblem characters because they bring with Smash Bros. Ultimate, they want all of the characters there, so they have to put all of the iterations of Ike and Roy into the same game because they were in Super Smash Bros. Before, so. But yeah, it's really interesting to see.
Well, yeah, and the pressure with Smash every year that a new one comes out is to get more inclusive and more inclusive and more inclusive. You know,
Mm-hmm.
like the people who the real thing is that honestly the fans will never really be satisfied unless every single Nintendo character is in Smash at the same time,
This is
so they can
true.
play whatever character they want. And the fact of the matter is that that's never reasonable or going to happen. And the more things you add to a fighting game, the harder it is to actually control what's going on in the fighting game in the first place.
Yeah.
So Smash is its own bucket, and I'm kind of surprised it's able to, like, the fact that it's able to run as well as it is with the balancing that it has
Yeah.
is insane, because like but it also can never approach the true, like, absolute 100% like deliberate, amazing mechanical fidelity that something like Guilty Gear Strive can with like 12 characters, you know?
And I think that's
Or however
kind
many, it was
of,
like 8 characters in Strive? I don't know.
I'm not entirely sure, but yeah, with like
I'm checking.
kind of with like Final Fantasy as well as Smash Bros, is you kind of get archetypes. Like, I am a dancer, so I am ranged. There's a certain archetype that goes along with ranged jobs and also just DPS in general. Like, oh, there's a combo. There's a dot combo. If there's not a dot combo, there's a burst phase. Like,
Yeah.
there's kind of specific tropes, and I think because Final Fantasy at this point has 18 combat jobs, and then 18 combat jobs. They're adding in 2 more, so there'll be 20 combat jobs. And so they're,
Yeah, they added with 12. They started Guilty Gear Strive with 12 characters, which is tiny for a fighting game roster in 2021.
Yeah.
But you can do so much when you don't have to worry about making sure having a tuned roster of 30 characters or something. Anyway, you were saying about
but so
archetypes.
Like, you get the you have to do archetypical things when you build up rosters, because then can I execute this now? No. Okay. But it won't turn off. Heat of battle, go away. Anyway, but yeah, so like you have to have those archetypes, and I think that's why the DLC characters are kind of like, sometimes they're lackluster because they go, oh look, it's Sephiroth, and then someone goes, it just plays like it just plays like X, or it just plays like Y, you know. This is a fancy car, David. Yes, this is from Final Fantasy 15. Ooh. Also, look at how the Lalafell drives it. There's no pedals. There's no. He just stands on the seat and drives. It's perfect. But yeah.
Jesus Christ.
It's great. I never noticed that. 10 out of 10. Yeah, they just stand on the seat. Oh, but I think that's where we'll end off.
Yeah, it's a good place to end. So I guess we'll be back next week with Monster Hunter World.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Oh, thank you so much for coming, Gigahertz, and being here, David, for a little bit, and all that jazz. It's always fun to play some Final Fantasy here. I'm really glad that we got to do a near raid. I was like, should I queue before we start streaming? Because I'm like not entirely sure like how those queues are going these days, but I'm glad we got into something. And then we got into Rathalos really quickly, so I was happy about that. But yeah, you can see my triumphant Lalafell.
Yeah. I love that fucking poncho. It's my favorite thing in the entire game.
It's fantastic. I love my ponchos.
It's the best. I need to get some of those.
And
also,
really
yes, you do need to make me play more Final Fantasy 14, because I put down Genshin Impact because I'm too busy with school. So now is the time to get me obsessed with another fucking game.
Yeah. Final Fantasy is great. It's such a great, like, mind-numbing time sink. Unless you're doing all the side quests, and then it's even more mind-numbing.
Hey, it's really fun. I like doing all the side quests. Also, I'm super over-leveled.
I think that's just, to be honest, it's good that you actually have a character. Well, Cassie, you're on Crystal, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I have my Dragoon's at 50. I think a little over 50, actually. I'm stopping doing each class at 50, and I'm working on getting Summoner, and it's, according stuff up to 50. You're on
Crystal, because currently, if you want to get into Final Fantasy 14, you can't get in onto Aether. it is impossible. They lock down Aether 100%. No more new characters on Aether.
Oh
They
boy.
on Primal, which is my data center, um, we have most of ours are open, but not during peak times, and they're not preferred. They're just like normal servers.
Right.
A lot of Crystal, I think all of Crystal's preferred now. I think. I think that's how they jiggered it because there's so many new players coming in.
Yeah, I mean it's good that I'm playing in a place where because I'm just not far enough along for it to for it to make where I still need new players to play with basically.
Yeah.
That being said, oftentimes Gigahertz takes me through different levels whenever we do play and we do dungeons together, which is good because I don't know the mechanics. I get my ass kicked every time.
Mhm. That's
That
always a
being
great
said,
thing.
it's not like these first dungeons are very difficult. It seems, you know,
Yeah. Eh,
unless the person really is not doing anything.
it really depends. I've not had any wipes in dungeons, but I have had like tanks that just don't turn on tank stance, or they do it where they're flashing tank stance on and off. I'm like, dude,
We've
just
done that a couple times. We've been in fucking in a dungeon or two, and Justin or in sorry, I almost just doxed Gigahertz, and Gigahertz was like, "Hey, that tank's taking a lot of damage. He's not in tank stance," and I'm like, "Oh, more reason for me not to play tank because I'll forget that."
but but yeah. Well, I'm gonna turn off the stream now. Thank you for joining us,
Yes,
Gigahertz.
please.
Thank you for joining David for however long you were here for. Um, and yeah,
Yeah.
we will hopefully play more Final Fantasy in the future because that's the game that I play a lot of. So, talk to you later. Have a good one. Bye.
Bye.